I continued my career brokering after that for several more years, then endured severe back issues that had nothing to do with 9/11, and then Lorraine and I decided to just pack it up and move south because the stress of the job, the stress of being the #1 target in the world for terrorism was very evident to me and to a lot of people up there. So anyway, I'll get into the story of the day, and it begins with me going to work that day, and at 8:46 that morning on a beautiful sunny Tuesday morning, I hear kaboom! Now, that doesn't do justice to the gravity of that sound. It was the biggest explosion I had ever heard, and we didn't know if it was above us, below us, or all around us. But as it turned out, it was on 92. We were on 25, so it was well above us. But we didn't know. And I turned and looked around, and that building's basically all glass. And I saw debris falling behind my desk. So at the first impact, right after that sound, the building shook violently. It actually rocked violently. It swayed 3 or 4 times, like almost making me lose my balance. And then when that slowed down, it went to shaking, like very rapid vibration. And that, to me, that was the most terrorizing part of it, because you just felt like, holy cow, this thing is going down. And we were initially in shock, but we were smart enough to realize we're in grave danger here. Whatever that was that we heard and felt was majorly serious. So we just got up out of our nest, ran to the stairway, which is the only way to go at the point, because you don't take the elevators in that situation. Now, imagine this. Imagine thousands and thousands of people above and below who are going into this one stairway. It took forever just to get into that stairway. And then once we got into the stairway, we were hit with this incredibly overwhelming and nauseating smell of fuel. It was the fuel pouring down the stairs. We were walking in it. It was flowing down the stairs. And that smell was horrible, but so we just walked down the stairs like this, or took our sleeves of our shirts and just covered our noses and filtered it. And that time frame, those minutes or half hour or whatever it was, in that dark, narrow stairway was terrifying, primarily because we thought that the building was falling at any second. It continued to creak and vibrate and make noises. It was mortally wounded, we could tell, from the violence of that shake. So, as I speak to you about it right now, try to put yourself in my shoes, if you can. I know it's difficult, but try to think of the pressure building up in my mind of this thing is about to go down, and how quickly I needed to get out of there. At any moment, it's going to collapse. We all felt it, and I felt like there was a tick-tock in my head, like, go, go, go. And even in that dark stairway, we all felt like, go, hustle, hustle. But you can only go as fast as the slowest person. And there were some people that were, some that were extremely overweight, some that were uh, not, not well, some people are actually in a wheelchair that people were helping them down. It's a long way to go on a wheelchair with help. So, you know, you try to slide by that person or whatever, but it was painfully slow. And I just felt the pressure just building and building and building. And we continued on downward, and through it all, it was me and a couple other guys that said, stop the fussing and just keep hustling. Because there was some crying and some, you know, panicking and that kind of thing. But, you know, I'm a pragmatist and a realist by nature. I'm a bottom line type of guy. I guess that's why I was good at my job. But, you know, I felt like, worry about it later. Let's survive first. Let's get out of here and put all the crying and the fussing and complaining out of the picture. Just go as fast as you can. And it just, there were times where we couldn't even move. The stairway was so log jammed. I stood sometimes for like a minute at a time without taking a step because it was just so built up in front of me, floor and floor and floor above, below me. So it's pretty frustrating when you're thinking, go, please go. And it continually stayed up longer than I thought. But then I got to about the 7th floor. Well, not about the 7th floor, it was the 7th floor. 7 more floors to go. And we heard another kaboom and felt our building shake violently again. And I and everybody else was convinced our building was falling on us. So I knew we had lost the race of getting out. So I knew I couldn't jump over all those people and run 7 stories before that thing fell on me. So in those first 2-3 seconds, it's amazing what your mind does, how quickly it calculates things and thinks of things. I said in my own mind, well, God, I've lived a moral and good life. You know, this is it. I mean, literally folding my hands and went like this, waiting to be crushed. And waited, and it didn't happen. So back I went to the slow pace of the stairs, and I was obviously surprised. As it turns out, obviously, you're probably surmising, that was the second plane hitting the building next to us. But from our perspective, I didn't even know what happened to our building, let alone their building. So I couldn't have known what that was. I surmised it was our building collapsing. But we kept going, in survival mode. And then we got to the level where the stairway ended, which is above the lobby, the main lobby of the Trade Center. And that takes you to an escalator down to the floor of the lobby. That's equivalent to, it's about 40 feet high, the escalator, because the lobby of both towers had 40-foot glass windows, and it was beautiful, beautiful view to look out to the sculptures out there in the water, features and all. So the firemen and policemen were guiding us down this escalator, go this way, go that way, and they were very, very helpful in guiding us. And then once we got down off the escalator, we had to then, run, sprint, whatever you want to call it, to a doorway with the fireman kept directing us. And I was with a colleague of mine who's on my same trading desk, and out of total morbid curiosity, I see through the glass as I was running. Picture this. I'm here, there's the exterior glass wall of the tower, and on the other side of it was the devastation that I witnessed and that still haunts me to this day. On the other side of that glass, probably 2 feet away from me, was a leg with black jeans on it and a Timberland boot and nothing else. And it wasn't bleeding, it was just there. And it caught my eye, and then I looked over there and I saw an exploded torso, limbless torso. And over there I saw a head. And over there I saw another head. And I say this kind of stuff to you, not to scare you or gross you out, but to bring into reality what happened that day. Because if I filtered all of this out for you, it wouldn't be the whole story then. There were body parts all over the place out there. And they got blown out from the plane. They could have been passengers on the plane, but most likely they were workers, probably from Marsh McLennan, which was on 92, that insurance company. They were hit, they were gone instantly, and it was probably all of them. And it, you know, I really just tell it to bring the realism to you. Anyway, like my colleague grabbed me by the shoulder and said, "Steve, come on, let's go." Because I was just stuck. I was entranced by this thing, by this mess out there. So we started running. We went to the doorway. There was a policeman there, and he said, "You can't go out here anymore." And the buildup of people was piling up. He said, "You can't go out this door." And we're like, "Yes, we can." He said, "No, you can't, because there's people jumping. And people have been hit by the jumpers, so you can't go out here." Well, we barreled right through the policeman. And he finally moved away. And he said, "Okay, well, if you're going to go out this door, go make this beeline straight and as fast as you can, and then slow down, but you have to get away from the building." So we bolted through the door. I ran for about 200 yards with my friend. And eventually I turned around to look to see what was going on and what happened to my building, and quite frankly, to find out if I was going to work tomorrow. And I looked up, way up there, and I saw the gigantic glowing wounds to my building. There was a massive hole on one side and clearly an exit wound on another side, and the ring around these circular shapes were orange. They were glowing steel, and smoke pouring out of them, and all around those circles you could see people breaking glass. People that had survived that initial collision, or they might have been from a floor below. You know, I don't know who they were, I'll never know. But they were breaking glass, and they were hanging like their feet on the edge of where the window was, holding on the best they could to the stanchions that ultimately held up the building. I don't know what they were waiting for, but that is, to me, the most haunting thing to me. As I stood there for those few moments, watching them one after another make that decision. Should I burn to death or jump to death? And I don't say that lightly. It had to be obviously a horrible situation up there because most of them were jumping. And I witnessed a few of them and finally just turned away because I watched them fall and hit fire trucks and just the desperateness of it was horrible to witness. And to this day, I still in my sleep, you know, I envision them, the people tumbling, and it, I've gotten past all the other stuff I saw on the ground. I remember it certainly, because I'm telling you, I remember it. But that doesn't really haunt me. It's the mere fact that these people were alive and having to make that decision is what bothers me so much. That they had to take their lives in such a horrible way. And after watching that enough, I started walking with my buddy from work, and we walked sort of aimlessly because everybody in that area was out of their office buildings looking for, or trying to decide what to do. So I eventually got to a payphone because cell phones weren't working, and the payphone happened to be at a pizza place where our company used to order from a lot. So we said to the fellow, "Can we use your landline?" He said, "Yeah, downstairs. So I go down there, I'm on the phone with my wife, Lorraine, and this guy's chopping onions and mushrooms right next to me, like nothing's going on in the world. And I'm telling her, honey, I'm still alive. And I could tell the dam burst in her eyes when I said that to her. Excuse me. So anyway, we continued on. I said goodbye to my pal because he lived in New Jersey and I lived on Long Island. So I jumped into a subway system and took a subway up to Penn Station where I would normally catch my train home. Subways were working, surprisingly. I would have thought they'd shut them down, but they were working. So I got onto a subway, got to Penn Station, got on a train, the train wouldn't move. Everybody disembarked. The transit authority is in fear that there are more bombs in the tunnel for the Long Island Railroad. So that began my dismal journey home, which was 6 hours of walking in these shoes that were soaked with kerosene, and my pants were wet up to here, to my knees with fuel, and I just trudged along with thousands and thousands of people. And it's almost like we were free. We were away from it. I did not witness any of the buildings fall because I believe that they fell while I was in the subway system or in the Long Island Railroad. So I never witnessed it. But when I did get up on land again, around level and started walking, I walked, basically you go with the flow. Everybody from every office building in New York City ended their day that morning. So they were all outside, and a lot of them were finding ways home. So I took the 59th Street Bridge, which is like a midtown bridge. That and the Brooklyn Bridge were the only two escapes out of New York City other than ferries going to New Jersey. I wasn't going to New Jersey, so that wasn't an option for me. So I took the 59th Street Bridge, a long walk just to get there, and I'm not trying to give a tip to a terrorist here, but that bridge was so chock full of human beings. We were shoulder to shoulder, stacked like sardines on that bridge, marching across. If a plane had come down the East River and hit that bridge, it would have done more damage than 9/11 did. And believe it or not, that thought crossed my mind. We are targets here. We're sitting ducks if another plane comes zooming down the river. But we got across, and I continued walking for hours, and made it to a train. And my cell phone was working at that point. I said, babe, I'll be home about 4 o'clock, and she met me at the train with a couple of the kids, and I was home. I was a wreck for days. We went to church together for several days, and my pastor said to me, he actually called me at home because I was crying nonstop in the Mass. It's a Catholic service, and he said, Steve, is there anything I can do for you? And I said, no, Father, I think I got this. It's just going to take a little time. And I think I was right. I've never gone for therapy on it, but I obviously still am haunted by the jumpers. So I call in this talk that I'm doing with you, that is part one of what I came here for, to tell you that part of the story, which was harrowing, terrorizing, gory, descriptive, and horrible. Part two, what I want to say to you is really what I learned from it. And it's also why I come here. It's the reason I do these speeches. I don't have to do these. I don't do them for any money. I don't do them for anything other than to hopefully purge myself of some of the memories, but mostly it's to change some of your thinking on life in general, but certain aspects of it more specifically. And I'll explain what I mean. Remember when I said to you that on the 7th floor, 7 more floors to go, and I thought I was dead? Well, that was the moment my life changed. And it's a funny thing, I've never said this before in a talk, but just yesterday I was reading my devotions, and the opening line of it for Saturday was, oddly enough, have you ever been in a dire situation? If so, were you filled with fear, or did you search out God? And I thought, how appropriate, considering I'm talking to these nice people tomorrow. And it was certainly, it qualifies as a dire situation. But sure, there was some sort of fear, but I described that moment on the 7th floor as like, almost like seeing the light. And any of you that you read your Bible, you know what the word light means in the Bible. And I think it was in John chapter 1, verse 5, where he says, the light will not allow the darkness in. And at that moment, on the 7th floor, when I had my head down, my hands crossed, and I was 100% sure I was about to get slammed by a tremendous piece of concrete. And then it didn't happen. I just felt like instantly changed. And later in my life, and the longer I thought about it, how lucky I was and how appreciative I was to be alive. And that's why I said in my little blessing to you in the beginning, to appreciate every day, and every hour, every minute. Because back then, and it's probably still today, nothing's guaranteed. Terrorism still exists in our world, but it could be in the form of an accident or something terrible happening to you. So you never know. Life can be snatched away from you at any second. And in my particular case, I just felt like God had his hand on my shoulder and was protecting me with like a bubble over me, or however you want to describe it. I wasn't extremely faith-filled back then. I am much more so now, because since we've moved south, I'm surrounded by it more, and I've grasped it, and still yearn for a stronger relationship with God, more and more every day. But I feel like my message to you is, if you can do it like in the form that I do, and please forgive me, everybody, if I sound like a preacher or a minister or something, that's really not my intention here. It's to tell you how it affected me and how it changed me for the better. I was a really, really stressed out bondbroker, coming at home cranky and yelling at my 4 kids and god-awful hours and everything else. And sure, I have a few moments, right? Would you say still, Dave, that I have my moments? But for the most part, I live with a smile on my face. And I actively, proactively go through life trying to live that way and bring some happiness or joy to anyone that I see or pass. Literally almost everyone I try to. If it's a person in a food store that I have never seen before, I'll say, "How are you? How is your day going?" And I've gotten people say, "You haven't done it?" And I say, "No, but I'm just saying hello." Or I'll empty somebody's buggy out in the parking lot because I can and I want to. Some people refuse me. They think I'm some weirdo trying to steal their sauce or something. I don't know. The point is that I just try to make people smile. As a matter of fact, I sign off every email, "Make someone smile today." Because I'm it gets hard sometimes, but I just can't express how thankful, how thankful I am to have all these extra years. I've raised all my babies. Now, I'm helping to raise their babies. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have the hand of God. If God wasn't pulling my shoulder that day. Forgive me, it's not always as bad. Maybe it's what I ate last night, I don't know. I was at a friend's house and food wasn't that great.
Cheers for good. Cheers.
But it just shows you, the impact that that moment had on me. It changed me. I want to do nice gestures for people all the time. And I ask you too to do the same thing. If I could make one person today be a better person in some way, and some people say to me, they'll raise their hands for questions, which I welcome all questions when I'm done here. Please, I'd love to hear a lot of them. I suggest to people, do exactly what I did. How are you? You know, in the food store kind of thing. But I love police, military, and firemen. They were going up the stairs when I was going down. I don't know how that calling gets into their hearts to make them do that. But, so I bring bagels, donuts, all the fattening foods to these guys. But I know a lot of them from the gym, but I genuinely respect them for what they did and still do. And I express it to them. But I'll do nice gestures for literally anyone. And it can come in small forms, like I said, saying hi, helping somebody in the parking lot. And I'll give you another example. This one gets close to home for me. There's a fellow up north where we used to live in New York, who I used to play baseball with, organized baseball with for years. And he was a pretty good friend, and his wife, Jeannie, had developed cancer. And it was lung cancer, and she had just finished her second bout with it. They thought she was in remission. Years later, it came back. Went through all the process, and was in remission again. But she was scared. So I was living down here, but on one visit up to visit my mom, God rest her soul, I went to see Jeannie and her husband, Timmy. I called and said, can I stop by? And I sat with her for about 3 hours in her living room. And I said to her, maybe I was out of line saying this, but I said to her, Jeannie, I think God is done torturing you. I just have this feeling that he's put you through enough. And she hugged me, and we stay in contact all the time via text or emails. And 2 weeks later, I got a note from her down here, to me, saying, the smile has not left my face from our conversation. You've cheered me up so much, I feel better just from being happy. And then recently we went to a family wedding, and she and Timmy, her husband, were at the wedding. She wouldn't stop dancing with me that night. And every time we were dancing, she said, you saved my life. And I said, I didn't save your life. I just tried to cheer you up enough to get you through it. She said, no, you saved it. And I said, well, I'm not going to argue with you after all this, but you saved yourself, your strength, God saved you, but I'm glad to help. Now that's an extreme case, but there are cases similar where you could go to an assisted living home and just offer your services. Does anybody need a visitor? You could bring food to people that need something. It can be done in so many different forms. And as we all know, just like the saying goes, the giver gets more joy than the receiver. Trust me, when you do nice deeds or good deeds for people, you're going to smile on the inside, or maybe even on the outside, maybe even more than the people that are receiving your gift. And I don't do them for that reason, but I feel like it's my mission from that 7th floor on to have these talks, to help inspire some people to be kinder, happier, more positive. Let's face it, nobody wants to hang out with Debbie Downer, do we? We all know some of those in our lives. We're just like, see you later. Well, surround yourself with happy people, positive people that make you a better person. I actively try to do that. And I have to say, probably my major flaw is I have almost no tolerance for negative people. And I need to work on that, but it's hard because I go through life with a smile and such a strong desire to uplift people, bring their spirit to a healthier place, that I don't want to hear the, oh, we're going to lose the election, and oh, my pain, and oh. You know, everybody's got their battles, and I guess everybody wants to vent. As I said, I need to be better at that. But the main focus of what I do is to cheer people up. And it just doesn't jive with me to hear bad news. However, if you do hear bad news, and this is the lesson I've taught my kids, my grown kids, and they're probably sick and tired of hearing it, I say, there's always a silver lining, right? So, the silver lining example I'll give you is, I'm standing here with my lower back hurting right now. You probably don't even realize it, but I've had it for many, many years. And my mom used to see me, you know, my body could be contorted or whatever from my muscle being in pain or whatever, and she would say to me, honey, how do you maintain your smile? And I say, Mom, there are people that have it worse than me, and that's the silver lining. It didn't really bring me any more comfort, certainly, it didn't lessen the pain, but I say, pain isn't going to kill me. Some people have issues that are going to kill them. This is just going to discomfort me, but I'll get past this, and I have my moments where it's actually okay. So you can always find a silver lining, and if you catch yourself, and this is the key to it too, if you catch yourself being down, grumpy, sad for some reason, just try to remember this moment. Catch yourself and seek out some kind of a silver lining, or just say to yourself in your mind quietly, enough of this whining and moaning. Just, you know, get on with my day. Because dwelling on the negative and dwelling on your pain or what you think might happen or worrying, that's all just, you know, helping the devil out. We don't want that. So just, you know, fight through the negativity and the depression and cheer yourselves up. One key thing I do is sometimes if I can't find a silver lining, I think of 2 or 3 of my 6 grandbabies that are closer to me, location-wise, and immediately it brings a smile to my face. If any of you have grandchildren, you know what I mean. They're a joy that will take anybody out of the slump. So that's a key that I use if I can't find anything else. So I hope they never get bigger. I don't know if I'm gonna do that. But anyway, I've said enough about that. I only have one request of you today, and then I'll take any questions. Actually, 3 requests of you. To never forget, to appreciate every day of your lives more, and to make someone smile today. So, if I'm too pastoral here, forgive me, but you can ask me any question, as many questions as time allows, or whatever. I'll stand here all day if you want, in pain. So, anybody have any? You can even give me your comments too.
Hey Steve, when you were crossing over the 59th Street Bridge, right, and you were thinking, wow, we're sitting ducks, when was it that you realized that that was a plane that flew into your boat?
In talking to other people outside the building, when we were walking around the towers, they were still up, and they were smoking, and obviously, but we were talking to people that had witnessed it, firemen, we were asking questions of them, and that we knew that almost right away once we were outside the building.
Got it.
Did you keep in touch with your buddy that Skyped the building with you?
For a few years, yeah. He actually moved to South Carolina. He's quite a bit older than me, but we stayed in touch. We haven't spoken in a couple of years, but yeah, he was not. His personality was not as sensitive as mine. He was. I hate to use the word callous, but he was more hardened than me, so I don't know if it affected him like it did to me. Maybe that came with him being a little bit older, but I don't think so. I don't think age has anything to do with it. I think it's how you're brought up, and I was always a sensitive kid, and that's why sometimes I lose it at the microphone here, because it's just, it's in my heart to just be affected by things that mean a lot to me.
So you had the opportunity to go to the memorial and actual service, and how did that impact you?
Yes, years later, Lorraine and I went because she lost 2 first cousins that day, one in each tower. And actually, when you have a loved one lost there, you can actually get into the museum for free. You just have to identify the people and somehow show your relationship with them. But we did go. We saw the pools. That's where we spent a lot of our time looking at the names, because I should have said this earlier, but as a bond broker, I did the exact same thing that the company Cantor Fitzgerald, I don't know if you've heard that company, they were on the 106th floor of my tower. They did the exact same thing that I did as bond brokers. And everyone that went to work that day died. So I lost about 150 friends that day just in that company. As a matter of fact, they tried to hire me about 4 months earlier, but my boss matched it and kept me. Otherwise, you'd be talking to somebody else here today. I found the museum to be really, really moving. I don't know how many of you have had the fortune to go there, but if you do go, try to fit time into going to the museum. It's on the ground. You take an escalator down deep into the ground, and you can actually see the what do you call them? The pillars, the steel girders, still in the ground, surrounded by concrete that they cut to make the museum. It's pretty impressive. They went so deep. But the startling thing was when you're in the museum, there could be 1,000 people in there, you don't hear a sound. You can hear a pin drop, because it's almost like it's like a tomb, or it's a solemn place. You don't even want to talk because you're reading, you're in awe of what you're seeing, fire trucks, and demolished fire trucks, and so much artifacts. I was wondering if the Rolodex from my desk was going to be in there, but never made it. Supposed to laugh on that. Anyway, I had the fortune to go there, and it's one I highly recommend it. Yes, sir.
The company that you work for, did they occupy that entire floor? And if so, approximately how many people was that? And do you know how many survivors there might have been?
Yeah, well, my floor is a trading floor. We did encompass the whole acre, and an average trading floor is about 500 people, predominantly male. There was a male-dominated business. And everyone from my company survived except one woman who was a tech person, was up on, in the restaurant called Windows of the World in my tower for breakfast, a technology breakfast that happened to be going on that morning. So that's the only person we lost. I happened to be at the time in my life president of the school board for my children at St. Joseph's Church. And the secretary under me in the school board was also a tech guy from Midtown Manhattan. He traveled down to go to that breakfast, and he perished that day. Just wrong place, wrong day. So there's a lot of different stories like that. I mean, the Sunday before, 2 days before, we had a gentleman in our kitchen who worked for Marsh McLennan, and he was telling us, he coached Little League with me. Both of our boys were the same age, our oldest were the same age, and he was in our kitchen saying how he was going on a cruise with his wife the following Saturday. And that 2 days later, he was gone. I used to see him every morning. I would go to my elevator bank, and he'd go to his elevator bank. Mine went up to 25, and he had to take a couple of elevators to get to his, but one of those things, just never saw him again. It's just, there's a million stories like that that happen. Yes, sir.
How much longer do you work at that?
Oh, wow. Well, the company moved around a few times. They temporarily put us up in Michael Bloomberg's, one of his buildings, for a year. And then our company was in the process of building over in Jersey City, which was across the Hudson River. So I worked till 2007, and I had pretty much had enough of the threats, and I had a 2-hour commute each way in public transportation. So it makes me laugh when my children move their house and they say, "Oh, my commute's 5 minutes longer." I say, you're talking to the wrong person. I mean, because my job encompassed, I was on the train at 5:30 in the morning. I'd get home about 7:30 if I didn't have to entertain clients that day. If I did, I'd be out almost all night and have to get up at 5:30 in the morning again. So, you know, it was a career that would grind you down, and that's why there's not too many older people at that job. It was, you know, the screaming and yelling that you see, and, you know, like in the movies, it's fairly accurate to some degree, but the pressure of things gets to you, the entertaining gets to you, and it wears you out. But 6 years later, I had had enough, and oddly enough too, that coincides with had my spine fused that year, so, you know, I was done working. I essentially retired and moved down here. But the boss back there said, you're not retired. So we became realtors together. So we've been doing real estate together for about 9.5 years. We're a successful team all around the lake and in Charlotte. And as much as I thought I wanted to be retired, I really enjoy working with Lorraine and seeing houses and getting to know people. And oddly enough too, we become friends with a lot of our clients. When you spend 2 or 3 months with people on the phone every night and in their homes and solving their problems and being therapists for them sometimes, babysitters for them sometimes, you're bound to become friends. Some I'd say definitely not, but most we become friends with. And it's been wonderful. So, and we have no intention of ending. As long as we're still having fun doing it, we will. By the way, we do have some business cards here. What kind of an agent would I be if I didn't have cards with me? There's got to be more questions. Anybody else? Sure.
What are your personal feelings toward the people who caused all these deaths?
That's a terrific question, and I have a very clear answer to that. I didn't like when, obviously, it happened, but I had no animosity towards the Muslim culture. I view it as Osama bin Laden and his 19 extremists were responsible for this. I know that there are more extremists out there, but for my sake, it was those few that did this to us. So I don't hold any ill will to the Muslim community in general. I know a lot of nice, happy Muslim people. They're very hardworking, good people. So, and I'm not the type of personality to harbor that kind of hatred or animosity towards anyone. So I'm asked that question a lot. And yeah, I mean, I was happy when Osama bin Laden was eliminated, primarily because he was the bankroll for a lot of terror. And I knew that would make it more difficult for things like that to happen again or in the future. So that was a good day for the world, frankly. But I don't hold grudges. And God's protecting me now, so I gotta believe that. Yes, sir.
I was just coming to church, it's repelled, get the bull.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Wonder, do they move somewhere else in power, you people, or?
Oh, Marsh McLennan? I honestly don't know if they rebuilt that's sort of like a worldwide company. So I don't know if the New York office was rebuilt or not. I don't know that answer, but my guess would be any major company needs a New York presence. Even Cantor Fitzgerald, who lost everyone on 106, rebuilt their company. They took people from other companies and rebuilt, and they're a force again. So most likely they're back in business. Yes.
Steve, did in the very first moments when you had the decision to stay in your office and maybe keep working, or to wait for other orders, do you think the Holy Spirit was told you go right away? Because many that did wait.
I know. I do know people that. Can everybody hear that question?
Yeah.
The question was, at the time of impact, did I know right away to get out and do and leave? Or did the Holy Spirit give me the message to leave? Honestly, the collision, the effect on our building was so violent, so loud. You didn't need the Holy Spirit, or you didn't need anybody to tell you, get out. So at that time, it was common sense that got me going. But I felt, now that you mentioned it, I feel like the Holy Spirit, who is part of the Trinity, was with me all the way down. And if I could take a little second to tell you a cute little story, I don't know how much time you all want to spend here, but I've spoken to all different age categories in the time, in the years I've been doing this talk. I've assisted livings, this type of thing. And the youngest I've spoken to is fourth graders at St. James Elementary School in Denver, where we live. They brought in all these, they're 10 years old, at fourth grade about, so, and they're all sitting on this big floor before the next class. And I told my story, I left out all the graphic stuff, and I numbed it up a little bit and said there was a lot of ugly stuff around outside. Anyway, when it came to this part of the talk, when they said, anybody have questions, you can imagine the excitement with all these kids. They were jumping out of their shorts. Every arm was up. So I didn't know what to do. I answered as many as I could. And finally, the teachers there said, it's time to go to our next class. And I said, it's been nice talking to you all, and they shuffled out. This one tiny little fella who couldn't believe he was fourth grade. He had to be like the tiniest kid in school. He's like this little tiny fella. He stayed back. He defied his teachers. He wanted to talk to me. And he came up to me and he said, Mr. Steve, I had my hand up the whole time and you never chose me. And I said, well, everybody had their hand up. I didn't even see you. Behind someone, you got to get taller. So he said, I just have a question for you. And it's the most beautiful thing, and I'll remember it always. He said, do you think Jesus was with you in that stairway? And I thought to myself, having little ones like that, I said, there's something beautiful going on in that little boy's house. For him to think that way. And I responded by saying, God was holding my hand all the way down. And he said, okay, I just wanted to ask you, thank you. So this experience has really been life-altering for me, from even the people that I meet, and from all of you, the questions that are asked of me. They are constantly making me think and think in different ways. But I can't reinforce this enough. Please try to take from today that life is short, and you don't really know at any time, because most of those people, obviously all those people that lost their lives that day, they just went to work. They didn't think anything other than go to work, come home, bathe my kids that night, have dinner, and go to bed again. But they didn't. So don't take life for granted and really appreciate it. And frankly, from my standpoint, most importantly, try to bring some kind of happiness to other people. I live by it. I gain joy from it. And I think that's what God wants all of us to do. I mean, I don't think that he expects us to be, all to be fishers of men, like they say in the Bible, but we can do our part on earth here to make people happier and better. Because a lot of people don't have what we all have. So that's the lesson to be taken, and I think it's appropriate that it's a Sunday that we're here, and in a chapel. I've never spoken in a chapel. It makes me think of that movie, Lilies of the Field with Sidney Poitier. It's like, really in a chapel. Not in a chapel. And it's really been my pleasure today to be with all of you. Denise, I thank you for calling me and inviting me. It made my day today, and I just hope that I didn't bore you today, and that I opened your hearts a little bit towards other people more. So that's all I got for you.